Hello, everybody. I hope you are doing well today. In this video, we are talking about the last big update, hopefully before 4.1 finally goes live. Before we get started, if you like what I'm doing here, feel free to subscribe. I have memberships open if you'd like to go that extra mile, and there's going to be a community Discord link in the description below if you'd like to come join. Besides that, let's get into the last news of 4.1. Now, to start this off, let's talk about some of the more exciting stuff going on. First things first, we have the new mining ship, the Drake Golem. This new little mining ship is actually pretty cool from what I've seen. It comes with two 16 SCU pods under the ship, giving you 32 SCU of storage for the minables you gather. By itself, the ship is incredibly small and offers no interior, but I can kind of think that's what makes the ship so perfect. Now, I haven't been able to get my hands on it yet, but I do think that it will be a really great entry ship for the mining loop. The ship looks, in my opinion, incredibly weird, but I also love it for that reason as well. It kind of looks like if you were to stretch a cutter or mule out a ton and then you just kind of make that a mining ship. But it definitely matches the Drake vibe, so I'll give it that. We don't have a ton of details on the ship, and there hasn't been like a ton of testing so far as from what I've seen in the community. But overall, it looks like a really cool ship, and it's really clear that they're trying to push out some more mining stuff for 4.1. So I think this is a pretty nice step in that direction. Now, speaking of mining, we also have to talk about the new Atlas Geo that we saw. The Atlas Geo is a mining variant of the original tractor beam Atlas we had before. This one, though, has some really, really cool features. First off, it's a mining mech suit, which by itself is super sick. Anything with a mech suit is awesome, in my opinion. But it stores the minables in a box in the backpack of the Atlas. This box is removable, which makes it really convenient to bring along some more storage and simply swap them out quickly when they get full. Now, the most notable feature, and the one that everyone's been talking about, is the jetpack and jump mechanics this suit has. This is actually really important for not only the mech suit, but the game as a whole. Now, I'm not saying that jetpacks or any sort of parachute type device will release anytime soon, but I do think that this first implementation is going to be a really positive change that gives us a taste of potential jetpacks for players. Again, I'm not saying it's coming anytime soon, but to see it functioning in game, even if it's just with a regular mining mech, I think that's really sick. And it shows that it's functional in some way, shape, or form. They would just need to implement that in other aspects of the game. Again, we don't really know what their plans are for, parachute or jetpack type of devices for players, but we know that they're working on something. So maybe this is like a little tease of what is to come in that direction. Now, in other news with the Atlas, the original Atlas, they actually updated that to have some thrusters on it as well. Not too sure if these are just like maneuvering thrusters, if it were falling out of the sky or something, or just like a jetpack just as well as the Atlas Geo has it. But regardless, it looks like the original Atlas will get some upgrades. So that's pretty nice. I know some people had some complaints about generally how maneuverable it was, but regardless, I think it's a really solid thing to see in game. Now, your best use case for the Atlas Geo is going to be in caves. I think that's the most obvious thing, especially with this event. Now, the biggest thing I see with this is I hope we're not getting another like redo of what happened with the original Atlas. You know, with this change with the mining and stuff going on, and the fact that this one specific cave under these OLPs has a bunch of valuables. Hopefully, they make this thing purchasable in game at the start of 4.1 because I know it's going to be really frustrating for some people who want to have this thing but just don't want to spend like $40 on it or something, which I totally understand. I don't think you should spend money on it if you don't want to, but it would suck to see, an event kind of surrounding mining and you can't actually unlock this Atlas suit for that specific event. So, hopefully they play it a little bit smarter this time. Generally, you could tell the last time they did this, it really pissed off the player base. Pretty understandably. I think it felt a little weird how they did it originally. So I think they have a chance to make it a little bit better this time. Will they probably put it on sale first and then allow you to purchase it in game like they did last time? Yes, that is the highest likelihood. Simply because they need the money, and especially with a slow year like this, they're probably going to try their best to put things on sale when they can. Regardless, though, I think this will be a great implementation, regardless of whether we get it in game for players to buy or it's just through the pledge store. Now, in some other news, we do know a few of the narrative updates coming to 4.1 and possibly after that as well. The kind of headliner for the 4.1 loading screen is basically talking about this whole region crisis going on. We've had this tease through, we've seen leaks, we've heard, Jared talk about it in the last ISC. It's very clear that there's something going on there. I personally think it associates with whatever, death costs that we had, death tax thing that we had going on that was bugged into the game earlier with 4.1. I think it has something to do with that. Of course, I don't really know, but honestly, we don't know much about this narrative as a whole. So it'll be up to next week's ISC to kind of explain what's going on a little bit more. Besides that, there's a small article in the bottom left of that news article as well that basically talks about the headhunters expanding their operations to Stanton. Now, I'm not much of a lore dude, but that kind of sounds a little weird. Them being a pyro gang and one that kind of seemingly wants to just do their thing in pyro. It feels a little weird to hear that they're coming to Stanton. So, again, I'm not much of a lore guy. I couldn't really tell you much about what this might mean for the game, but just a little bit of a tease as to what might come in, the next 4.1.x build. So when is this patch going live? I personally think next Friday is probably like their last date they want to get this out, unless there's like a really major blocker. I think the biggest one they have right now is just the desync that's going on in the game. I know there's some networking stuff that they talked about that's causing some issues, and I think they really need to get that ironed out before it goes live. Simply because it feels like the desync is as bad as it was before server meshing and when you had those really, really low server FPSs. But besides that, the patch is in decent shape. They'll probably need to polish the Drake Golem and the Atlas Geo just a little bit more, and then they'll get it into our hands probably late next week. Now, I actually have one last thing for you guys. If you're still sticking around, first off, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you watching to the end. Second off, I have a question for you. Now, late last year, they talked all about this whole playability initiative. In the letter from the chairman, talking about how they just want this game to be in a more playable state at the end of 2025. They also talked about how they wanted to use the ePTU branch to test out features pretty rigorously before they made it to anything like PTU or live. Now we are about a third, my bad, a third of the way through 2025 almost, and we've heard nothing about the ePTU. Now, CIG does have a past of not, going through with their words about the experimental branch. Late 2023, they talked about testing a ton of different features in 2024, and we only tested server meshing in the EP2 basically. Now, of course, that was still a very great use case for it, but it's very clear that you know, when it comes to what they might actually test and if they'll actually test anything, you know, you can't really trust their word on it. So, my question to you guys is, do you think they're actually still going to test anything in EP2? Or do you think it's just going to slip again and they're not going to really use it like they probably should? Now, my guess is that they will use it, but just later in the year. As we know, on the progress tracker, things like engineering, FPS radar and scanning, life support, and charge and drain all had work set out until the end of May. And not that that means much because it's the progress tracker, but these features have been, cooking in the oven for a long time. They were almost ready for 4.0 and they just simply weren't, I guess, by the time that they had to get that patch ready for release. But, I think those are probably their top contenders for what they might get into the EPTU. It's just a matter of when. I think probably towards the end of June, early July, we might see these types of things. But then again, it's CIG, so you never really know. And that's my question to you is, do you think they're going to use the EP2 this year? And if they do, what features are they going to add in there that we can kind of get testing a lot earlier so that, we get some of those bugs and problems out of the way as soon as possible? Now, besides that, that's really all I have for you today. Just wanted to make a quick update video on 4.1 stuff. Hopefully, the last video we have over 4.1 before we get some more news stuff to look forward to and we actually get the patch to live. Again, though, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you watching to the end. Again, if you'd like to join the community Discord, we'll have a link down below. Hop in if you want to. We just, kind of chat, hang out in there. I make some announcements as well, but I would love to see you in there. Besides that, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next one.